Hello, Nonso. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Nicola. How's it going?
I'm fine. For those who will watch this, Nonso Obikili is a research associate with Economic Research Southern Africa, and plus a lot of other things. You can go on his website. There will be a link under this conversation. And the conversation that I would like to have today is about a blog that you have posted some time ago, talking about your visit in Zimbabwe at the time that the dollarization of the use of the dollar or the rand in the economy was forbidden for around 1 month ago. And then we will go from there to a conversation about the role of the institution and the role of political economy in Africa development. What happened when you arrived in Zimbabwe?
So the Zimbabwean currency problems are not new. Everybody kind of already knew that there were challenges. The Zimbabwean dollar had been abandoned, and over time there had been a mix of different currencies plus a bit of extras. But by and large, you could use any currency you wanted. You could use US dollars, you could use pounds, euros, even rand. But I think at some point, people figured out that dollars in the bank or digital dollars were not exactly the same as cash in the hand. It's how it became the case. But I mean, theoretically, it makes sense, right? Yeah. You know that only the Federal Reserve can print the US dollar, the cash US dollar. Yeah. You know that only the Treasury in England can print the pound. But it's not exactly the same for digital dollars or digital currency. Any bank can add a zero here or a zero there. And so I think people figured out that over time there were some shenanigans in the sense that you could go to a bank to request your dollars, but you wouldn't be able to get cash. And so digital dollars had a different value to actual cash dollars. And before I arrived, there had been kind of like an acknowledgement by the government that, you know, digital dollars, what they called RTGS, were not the same as actual cash dollars. And there was an exchange rate for digital dollars versus cash dollars, and the government had allowed it to become a bit more market determined. So when I got there, it was about 7 RTGS to about $1, and it was about 13 RTGS to about $1 in the black market. Because there was still there were lots of rules around how you could buy or sell RTGS, and so because of that, there was a thriving black market. Yeah. And so when I got there on the Sunday, it was $7, 7 RTGS per dollar officially, but there were about 13 unofficially. And everybody kind of knew somebody who traded currency unofficially. I didn't have to go far. I just called a friend who knew a friend who helped me trade. And you would go to restaurants, because I went to restaurants on Sunday when I got there, on a Monday morning, and they will tell you their rate, and it will be close to the black market rate. So that was more of the official rate. And the day I got there, my friend told me, Nonso, things change very quickly. So you want to, you know, hold on to your dollars. And I thought, well, for a week, what could possibly happen in a week? Yeah. But next day, all foreign currency was banned, and everybody had to start using RTGS. Now, it was problematic because it wasn't just that they banned foreign currency, they banned the trading of foreign currency. So all the people who used to sell in the black market and sell unofficially were kind of afraid. They didn't know what to do. The official markets hadn't really started working. So there was a lot of disparity between each bank. You go to one bank and it'll be 6, another bank it'll be 7, another bank it'll be 8. So nobody was quite sure what the actual rate was. And when you have that kind of information uncertainty, you can guess there was a bit of chaos. Yeah. The black markets kind of shut down. The official markets weren't really functioning, and because a lot of the formal enterprises, from restaurants, shops, couldn't accept dollars anymore, there was some kind of uncertainty over what rate they should actually use to price their products. So I went to the supermarket to a Pick and Pay, and you could see it on everybody's face, right? Trying to calculate, you know, this says it's 50 RTGS, but what does that really mean? Is that $5? Is that $10? $12? If it's 5, it's cheap. If it's 10, it's expensive. But you need to know what the rates be. You know, nobody had any idea what the true value of this new official currency was. Yeah.
How did you survive that?
Well, I had already changed on the Monday, so I had a bit of RTGS from when I changed at 13 to 1. So I survived until Thursday. But by then I was completely like out. I had dollars, but I could not spend them. So I went to banks. I tried to get a good rate. I went to about 7 banks. I think I broke my distance walked record that day by just walking around trying to find out where to change money. Every bank needed something or the other that I didn't have because I was a visitor, right? I didn't have a South African residency. I didn't have a proper ID card. I could not open the bank account. So I effectively couldn't change dollars in the bank. Eventually, through some sources, I was told I could go to still get it changed at the black market. So I went there, like the dingy neighborhood. It was in Central Business District. There were people, just hanging around.
Yeah.
When I go there, someone approached me, do you want to buy RTGS? I was like, yes. And they gave me a rate. It wasn't as good as the 13 I bought on the Monday. It was about 8 or so, which was still better than all the banks and, frictionless, right? So you could see some kind of adjustment over those few people trying to figure out what the new rate was.
So what happened is that in the black market, the price of the LGTS increases relative to dollars because it becomes more risky, therefore increase the price. But it's not that, especially if a lot of the people had the dollars. Therefore, you were a visitor, but what happened to the Zimbabweans that rely on dollars or rand the day before? What do they do with those money, with those currencies?
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I got the sense that everybody was trying to wait and see what will happen. Because, if you have to take a bet on a currency when there's uncertainty, the dollar is always the safe bet because that, dollars will always be valuable. Yeah. Occasionally things could change, but if you're waiting for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then people always tend to want to hang on to dollars as opposed to hanging on to anything else. Or maybe gold, or maybe other kind of, safe assets. But you would count dollars as a safe asset. You probably wouldn't count RTGS as a safe asset, right? So you could tell that everybody's kind of hanging on to the dollars, not wanting to change anything until people figured out, what's going on.
But it's really, I think every time I read your blog or I read this, I advise everybody to go and look for the Twitter feeds of Nonso because it's a daily lesson on the absurdity or the dominance of politics on the economy, what kind of absurdity produced. And the question is always, don't the politicians understand these mechanisms that for us are a sort of, if you had the other beautiful story about the milk market in Nigeria, for which now they have decided to forbid the importing of milk. That I don't understand why, but that's another thing that you might want to talk about. Do not they understand that you just have an effect on relative prices, creation of black market, dislocation of an increase in cost of transaction? What is the objective, or what is the political economy behind? Why you believe that coercion is the way for the solution of fundamental trust problem?
Yes, it's not quite clear, and I don't think there's much research done on that. If I had to guess, I would say it's a historical problem. A lot of African governments have been dependent on resource sectors. And in resource sectors, governments have total control because you suck up a big chunk of the value. Even if you have a more flexible, market-driven system, you're still able to suck up a large chunk of any value created in resource sectors. In Nigeria, for example, the government collects 70% of any kind of value created from the oil industry, right? Same thing with diamonds, with gold, most resources. And then you have unilateral power to kind of make whatever rules you like, which companies must obey. So I kind of think that because governments have come from that perspective of complete control, they try to apply those same rules and that same ideas to more fundamental questions in economics, like with currencies or with taxes or with milk,
Yeah.
you know, where in practice they have a lot less control than they think they have. And you can see it in a way in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah.
Overnight, you mandate that everybody must trust the currency that you have approved. And I had a good experience talking to a bartender when I was there, and because I tried to chat with people on the street around just to know what they thought. And this guy was a bit less than 40, and he said, "Look, I'm less than 40, and I've seen two big economic crises relating to currency, all because of mismanagement. So, really, why should I trust that this time will be different, right? If like we say, once beaten, twice shy. If you've seen one crisis before because of financial currency problems, you've seen a second one, then you can kind of guess that, this same government has no reason to convince you that this is not a third one. And if it's a currency problem, then everybody knows the thing to do is always to hang on to your dollars, right? So what you see is, especially in Zimbabwe, there's kind of like a complete erosion of trust in the Zimbabwean authorities to kind of properly run a functional currency. And once that trust is not there, then that's it, right? Currency is essentially run on trust. If I decide to give you 100 Nonso bucks and tell you this is worth a bar of gold, you're not going to take it because you don't trust that I can, redeem that.
I will trust you.
Yeah, so the trust is gone.
Yeah.
Right. But the government still feel that they can unilaterally kind of force people to take particular action that are against their interests, which typically is not the case.
Yeah.
And it's not just in Zimbabwe. You see it in Nigeria, for example, with the milk ban. And we've seen it time and time again. Anytime the government tries to ban something like rice, people just figure out, I can import it illegally through the borders or through some underground network. And I'll do it because it's cheaper. It's in my interest, And so what you end up with is just, a movement of activity from a formal space to a more informal space. You see with currency in Zimbabwe too, where, use of dollars was banned, but the informal markets still work and people just end up having to go there.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, Sub-Saharan Africa has one of the largest rates of informal activity relative to overall economic activity. And so there's a thriving economy that is beyond the reach of governments. Yeah. So again, knowing all that, why would governments assume that they can force people to take particular actions when a non-state option is just around the corner, right?
Yeah. And actually, this one takes me to, because the case in South Africa is peculiar. Sorry?
So I think it has something to do with the resource background, where a lot of governments are used to complete control of sectors. But I don't think there's been enough research done on that.
And also, because I can see certain tendency in the same way in South Africa. Therefore, although South Africa is not hasn't got the same characteristic of a lot of African countries, but there is some sort of a similar mentality, sort of the centrality of the state in the organization, in the organizational market, and the carelessness, the level of trust that the Islamic institution have. I mean, it's one thing that I always go around, be careful, because the trust that the institution like the central bank, the treasury, or these institutions, they are the foundation for the trust on the rand, for the fact that you can borrow 30 years time or 20 years time, the fact that you can borrow in your own currency. These elements that are the foundation for your economic stability and also the potential foundation for your economic growth are very fragile instruments. If you think that you can mess in a form of mess with this thing in a sort of centralized or idea that you can control this thing at your own advantage, the idea that you can force force the use of money for buying a government debt. Some certain idea that come from this modern monetary theory adopted by some in South Africa. I think is extremely risky because the fact is that you break or you risk to break this relationship of trust that thereafter to recover it, it might take a very, very, very long time. Therefore, is we started this conversation with this example from the rest of the continent, not as usual to say, the Africa is a basket case, but I think because these examples, because they're so extreme, make very clear what is at stake. What are the things that really matter in the functioning of market, in the functioning of the economy, in the functioning of society? How you build up social trust, how you build up, contracts that actually work. Therefore, I think is for anybody that is interested to economics and the relationship between state formation and how the politics affect the economy. I think Africa is interesting, not because it's different, but actually because it's really show at the extreme what these relationships are. Therefore, that's why I wanted to start the conversation on this. What else did you learn from that?
Yes, and you're perfectly right. Yeah, you're perfectly right. In most of economics in the West, it's assumed that people trust each other. It's assumed that people trust the institutions. It's assumed that people trust the central banks to do what they're supposed to do. But in many parts of Africa, that's not the case, right? People don't necessarily trust the governments. People don't trust that the central banks would not manipulate the currency and erode their purchasing power. People don't trust that if they invest, 1 rand today, the rand will still be the same value in 20 years. And even though different countries are at different levels, you can kind of see that kind of erosion creeping in South Africa. Just I think a year ago, one of the banks launched the first foreign currency investment program for regular South Africans, which it might seem like it's just a simple financial product, but in the underlying logic for that is people are beginning to have less trust in the rand and looking for other options, and banks are responding to those other options by providing these foreign currency financial products. If people completely trusted the rand, then you would not have any need for that, but you can kind of see it creeping in, and it's not something that happens overnight. But you can continue down that road for 5-10 years, and before you know it, half the country is dealing in foreign currency. And once you get to that point, it becomes even more difficult to kind of build an economy. It's more difficult to kind of generate economic growth, generate employment, as we can see in Zimbabwe, right? And like they say, it takes 100 years to build trust, but only a year to knock it down.
On this, I think is a nice note to close this first conversation. I will put in the description of this the linkage to Nonso's blog and some reading for whoever will be interested to know a bit more about this issue. Thank you, Nonso. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola.
Ciao.
Talk soon.